Hi, my name is Kelsey, and this is my presentation for my brand. My brand is Blockbuster. The company history for Blockbuster is in 1985, the first Blockbuster store, video rental store, was opened in Dallas, Texas. This was founded by a guy named David Cook, who was a software engineer originally. By 2004, after such a successful time in the early 90s, up into the early 2000s, Blockbuster grew to over 9,000 total video rental stores. By 2004, Blockbuster had basically hit its peak. The company also had some issues. It was mostly reactive instead of proactive in that they did not plan for future growth. They are not very strategic with how they wanted their future to look like, and they did not adapt well to as technology changed and progressed. And they typically lagged behind for what they focused on temporary profit instead of long-term. Where Netflix was mostly ahead of the game, Blockbuster was not. The new target audience for Blockbuster is going to primarily be for focusing on millennials who grew up within the 90s, even up to the late 80s, all the way to the 90s, early 2000s. This will be a market where the consumers are very nostalgic and love thinking back to the past and the experiences that they had faced growing up, especially as children and as teenagers. A lot of the children and teenagers that grew up within the 90s really enjoyed going to Blockbuster, being able to look at all of the options to rent a movie and buy a popcorn. They love the nostalgic smell. They can think back to Blockbuster as an experience. The new target market is going to also be trend setting. They will be the leaders who start trends. They will be ones who don't follow what the crowd goes, but kind of start with what they want to do. And they're also the ones who've typically been seen as the outcast, just as Blockbuster is seen as the outcast. For the brand communication, the first option for brand communication is for Blockbuster to be able to leverage its punchline position. As it's known, Blockbuster is kind of the punchline of a joke nowadays. You compare Blockbuster to Netflix, and it is the butt of the joke. So, in order for the new communication, we're going to leverage this and kind of use this to our advantage. Kind of more of a haha. We know who we are. This is who we are. We're going to develop a new attitude to kind of bring back nostalgia and display the good times and the good experiences that the customers used to have. Another idea is to team up with companies just like PlayStation, who have also been there since the 90s. And this will be to reintroduce the experience of old times, possibly even to kind of partner with PlayStation to be a video game rental company, which we'll talk more about that in number 3. But next is brand communication number 2. We're going to utilize social media influencers to bring Blockbuster back as an experience. We're really going to focus on riding the current 90s trend, which is really big right now. We're going to provide pop-up shops in or possibly near the older locations so that those people who have experienced Blockbuster can really dive deep into that experience. Social media influencers will be a key to making sure to bring Blockbuster back as cool, kind of like cool but quirky cool, because it is ultimately the punchline of the joke, and they're going to be a little bit more tongue-in-cheek kind of attitude, kind of not taken so seriously. For number 3, Blockbuster, the third option is possibly sponsoring characters or players or streamers who are involved in a lot of Comic Cons. The target market is a lot of people who do attend Comic Cons. So a lot of the streamers who have become very famous through Twitch or any streaming platform, we're going to kind of use Blockbuster as the sponsor for these streamers, and they'll kind of be a guide to bring Blockbuster back to the market. So like I had previously mentioned, an option for Blockbuster right now is to primarily focus on being a video game rental company. Redbox just recently stopped doing their video game rentals, which was a very big market. So I think Blockbuster really needs to tap into that market to be able to kind of come back to their stores. It'll be more of an experience when you come into a store rather than a retail environment. So people have the option to possibly meet other gamers in store, possibly even play a few games and test them out before they go home and rent those video games. And also, the one and only Blockbuster that's currently open as its own location is also an Airbnb, which can be rented out for a very cheap price every night. So Blockbuster can team up with this, kind of quote unquote last standing location to bring its brand back and to bring awareness and excitement and gather the Blockbuster brand in a fun environment and a fun way. So overall, that is Blockbuster coming back. Blockbuster's busting out. So that is my presentation. Thank you.